AaronSilverstein.com. Thanks a lot, Dave. Really appreciate you having us on the show.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Hey,
thanks for being on.
Namaste all the way.
Hey, thanks, Alan.
Good night.
So, Alan, you've been very supportive of what we do, and I appreciate that you promote people, and I'm glad this is an evolving thing, and we have some new people this year that I've only met about a year ago. Although that we're actually at the first festival, I hadn't quite known them. And Jim Furia and Julia have both gone out of their way to support community. So at some point we'll bring them on.
They are
on the website real quickly. Well, good. Again, people can get tickets for this weekend, June 1st to 3rd, by going to www.touchmotherearth.com. And Jim and Julie have just created an herbal apothecary. They have a store that is more than just a store. It's a community center. They're having gardening out in the back. They're having events inside, private consultations. And I really honor Jim was there yesterday at Mount Eden, mowing the lawn, making sure it was going. And Julie was helping me with promotions on things that, I didn't quite know, so we can get that out to the public in an efficient manner. So welcome, both of you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Hi, Dave.
This is
Hey,
Julia
guys.
Sickler.
This is Jim Furey.
From Integrative Herbalism in Kinnelon, New Jersey. Very grateful to be part of this amazing festival and movement.
So how do you see your
Jim.
participation this year? Each of you have a workshop.
Jim, do you want to give a little bit of your background, Jim?
Yes, sure. I have a background in horticulture and botany, and I also have a background in herbal medicine, in studying herbalism and traditions of using plants for medicine and or diet.
So some people say, I have a background, but it seems according to your bio that you actually have a background as opposed to, I have a background. So do you want to describe a little bit more about the depth of your background?
Okay. Well, to go into my horticultural background, I worked at an arboretum. I studied horticulture at a community college and at Rutgers University. I have a background of being affiliated with the Master Gardeners at one point. And as far as herbal medicine goes, I program on naturopathic medicine and herbalism based out of Indiana. I also studied with David Winston at the David Winston Center for Herbal Education. And I've also studied with many other herbalists to kind of keep
right.
it
It's sort of like someone can say, I took a few chemistry courses, or they can say, I actually have like something, I actually have like this other accreditation. So you have a little bit of a background.
Jim is a person who actually does it. He takes it into practice, and you can feel it. When he will take you on a garden tour, he doesn't just say, that's a plant you can eat. He will tell you which organs of your body can benefit from it. He'll show you how it can become part of your positive living situation. And he'll be at Touch Mother Earth on 6 p.m. Saturday, and then Julia will also be on 4 p.m. Saturday. Julia, how about you? You just went to Rwanda. That had to be a life-changing experience.
It definitely gave me a lot of perspective about the way that I personally view the world and the way that I view environmental issues. I was living in Rwanda for 5 weeks doing research for the Wildlife Conservation Society. And when I was there, I was able to work on how to impact and fight climate change by the use of radio, actually. So it's funny we're talking on this show.
Well, we were talking offline about how kids here learn to read. They don't learn how to garden, yet there they learn how to garden but may not be able to read. That's a very big difference, and I don't see why they can't be doing both.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main things that shocked me when I was there, and I guess, maybe I should have known about this, but in Rwanda, they didn't have a written language until they were colonized about 60 to 70 years ago. And before that, there was no such thing as school. Like, there really, there was no such thing as, you turn a certain age and you go sit in a room and you sit down and you learn things from a teacher and you write and you learn math, arithmetic, science. That just did not exist. And that very concept itself is very almost European, kind of westernized. The concept of even like sitting down and going to school and going through academia, whereas there, you learn how to farm from a very young age, and that's just the way it is. But, in America, it's very much so, you get to a certain age, you go to school. Like, that's it. That's the way it's set up.
Was that more survival? Because if you think about it, if you can provide food for yourself, you're at a survival level that some people don't have. I mean, if you have money, you go to a grocery store, you don't necessarily know where your vegetables and all come from. But reading is critical if you want to introduce yourself to the rest of the world. So maybe reading is not as important if you're culturally connected to the earth. And maybe your reading, sorry to say it, actually has disconnected us from the earth.
Well, if I could interject for a moment, if they teach a recently enslaved population, which is the folks in Rwanda, they're trying to teach them maybe a little bit to read, but here we've been enslaved for many hundreds of years, and we don't know how to garden, also known as liberate ourselves from the grocery store. But there, they just they do it the other way. And we're thinking about language. Language is something that connects you to the consumerism lifestyle, in my perspective.
It really does, but it also connects you with different factions of science that allows you to be able to create clean water and to learn about airborne bacteria and to be able to even get electricity, to have refrigeration, to be able to store these foods over long periods of time. So there is a big trade-off, and it is about survival. But, unfortunately, until the Rwandans had a written language, the living age was around 35. Because most people died at a young age because of not only malnutrition from eating the same things every single day.
Mono diet, okay.
Yeah, which Dave and I talked about a lot when I was living in Africa, because we talked almost every day. And a lot of airborne bacteria, waterborne bacteria, and they didn't really have a concept on how to fight these diseases that were killing off their people at an early age. But now with the introduction of colonization, there's pros and cons to everything. But one of the larger pros is that now they have higher food and safety regulations and standards, not very high, but high enough to be able to raise the living age up to about 55.
Wow. And is this going to be part of your workshop?
I'm going to talk about how that contributes to habitat destruction and climate change in the rainforest region, because everyone in Rwanda used to have 10 kids because maybe 2 or 3 will survive. But now, with the introduction of different technology, people are living longer, but they're still having 10 kids. So there's a huge population growth, a huge demand that's put on the rainforest region that makes the living areas no longer sustainable, like farming and gardening and cutting down the trees like they used to do 100 years ago is no longer sustainable. So I'm going to present research on how we can be part of the solution to that.
How do you see that apply to Americans? Because somebody's going to take your workshop and they're going to say, what's in it for me?
Well, we're going to go over a values grid and kind of do like a teamwork activity where we're going to look at, what message you want to get across to create your change, to create your vision. And we're going to look at knowledge, attitudes, and behaviors that need to shift in order for that vision to happen and ways how you can get that across. So it's about being part of the shift in consciousness, but reaching a larger audience through the use of entertainment to be able to facilitate that change. Because a lot of times, if it's just education, people may not have the attention span to learn. People may, not want to learn. But if it's done through other ways, even at a young age, through a play, through music, through radio, through TV, through films, it has to be in a way that's entertaining for people to be able to learn to start making those sustainable changes. But we're going to do a group activity and kind of talk about how people can take away from the research.
That is so beautiful.
So Jim, if we'd like to get back. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I something that Julia said. There's actually like a video app. Kids are into games. There is an app where they can like play it while they're playing it. They're having fun, but they're learning about applications that apply to the world. I don't know what it's called, but I've heard that there are resources out there now that help kids to become stewards of the earth. This is where we got to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like, Sesame Street. Like the kids, they're singing along to songs, they're having fun while they're watching, but they're also learning while they're being entertained by the program. And, I remember when computer games first came out, I would say that I'm, one of the first of the millennials, being born in the late 80s. So I was a kid when computer games first came out, and we played Oregon Trail. We played Putt-Putt and all of these games where you were learning but having fun. It was very tricky, but a great way to learn. That's how it started,
so
I think.
Jim, you want to talk a little bit about your workshop? Because you, as an accomplished herbalist and gardener, you have a care for the earth, and you also really focus on things that help people walk away with some knowledge.
Yes.
Great segue, Dave. So Jim, what is your goal for the foraging walks that are going to be at the festival?
Basically, my goal is to reconnect people to their natural surroundings by introducing them to the plants that are around them, and maybe introduce them to quite a number of plants and how the plants can help us either sustain a healthy diet, how they can help us medicinally, if the plants are environmental protectors such as soil restorers or soil rebuilders or erosion controllers, and so forth.
And so is there a specific plant that grows at Mount Eden that you can tell us about?
Well, there's a plant that grows in everybody's yard, or at least almost everybody's yard, and that's a dandelion, otherwise known as Taraxacum officinale. And I can talk about that a little bit here. There is 3 different ways that is used either for nutrition or for medicine. And the leaf will be the first one that I'll talk about. As everybody goes out to these natural health food stores and buys all these green powders at a marked up price, a great source to get all these minerals and all these vitamins from is actually dandelion leaf. that can be dried. I mean, it's absolutely full of magnesium, it's absolutely full of trace mineral contents, calcium, and so forth, as well as different carotenoids and different other vitamins that are great to take for health. It's also a very effective diuretic or aquaretic. Basically, that's really helpful for people that might have water retention in their body as well. It's also a really good bitter tonic that can be used to lower triglycerides and LDL and VLDL cholesterol levels, and it can also enhance the absorption of nutrients. Let's see here. And the another part of the plant, the root, is used in a completely different way. And the root is really used for people that have a lot of digestive insufficiency, from people that have impaired fat metabolism, such with biliousness. So the root is used to enhance bile secretion, to help people digest these fatty foods that are found a lot in the standard American diet. And it's also a bitter that really helps promote the production of our digestive enzymes to help us digest these foods. And another part of the plant, inulin in particular, is really used to help feed our gut flora as part of a fiber in our diet, and that's also used as a medicine. And last but not least, quick introduction to the flower. The flower is absolutely full of lycopene and carotenoids, which are extremely beneficial for our eyes. So you can throw that in a salad, you can throw the leaves in a salad. The root you can make into a tea or an infusion and make a drink out of it. And that's definitely everybody has that's readily available to them, that can be used in so many different ways.
And that's just one plant.
Yep. Oh, when Jim was there yesterday, he walked through the land in preparation for Touch Mother Earth Festival, and he found at least 50 plants that have certain benefits or can be identified as positive.
So
yeah,
what are some basic tips people can use when identifying edible foods in the forest?
So some basic tips, they could look at basic plant ID structures, such as leafing patterns. Like if anybody's ever seen a black walnut tree, the leaves look almost like ferns, and they're in a pattern that's called pinnately compound. Or they could look at a different herb called cleavers that has a leafing structure that's called whorled. They can look at different bark patterns. That's especially helpful during the winter time. If you're looking at different trees, or if you're getting ready to tap maple trees, you can look at the different bark patterns on that. Some ones that I can point out are different knots that are found in the bark of elderberry bushes, and the shingle shapes that are found on white pine that are found in the bark. They can also look at the stem structure, and while it is not used for every single one, a good key would be a square-shaped stem. Is usually associated with the mint family or the Lamiaceae family. They have box-shaped stems, and there's a lot of plants that are found out in deciduous forests, especially in northern New Jersey, that are related to this family. And it's the same mint that we think of when we're popping a peppermint or another mint. It's in the same plant family. Another thing they can look at is the different flower structures. And an easily identifiable one would be looking at a flower of an iris, and you can tell that a lot of iris flowers are very distinguishable. They generally just change color. There might be a few differences, but that's a good one. And they can find a lot of this information in books like Peterson's Field Guide to Wild Flowers, or another Peterson's Field Guide to Medicinal Plants, where they have all these identification characteristics in those books.
So in general, would you say if people had access to go on foraging walks, a better way to positively identify the plant and to get experience down to them? You think that would be a better way to do it than to try to say, okay, I'm going to put something in my mouth that I've identified from a picture in a book?
Yes, I think that's a great way to introduce it, and then as you gain more experience, really start to hit the books.
It goes both ways. You want to identify it positively, but you should have a little bit of training from somebody who says this is safe.
Yes.
And how it benefits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is
definitely.
the connection? What's the connection between all the plant medicine systems from around the world?
Well, in all the different medicine systems around the world, like traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, Unani Tib, or Arabic Greco medicine, and even some Appalachian folk medicine here, is that they have different labs being constitutional-based medicines, or constitutional-based systems, rather, that applies to a topic called herbal energetics, which I'll go into in a little bit later on. But basically, the people employ herbs as part of a holistic view of the people and their environment. And when I say holistic, I mean it like WHOLE. They're looking at the whole person. They're looking at the people's diets. They're looking at their lifestyles. They're looking at everything they're doing that can attribute to what it's manifesting. And so plants are a part of all of those systems when used.
So
It is
how
the
can
whole
people
picture.
become empowered to regain their connection with nature and healing themselves?
Well, basically, is to become educated about your environment, get out and experience your natural surroundings, to reconnect with nature. I mean, it's right there. There's parks all over the place that you can go visit and reconnect to it. And as far as healing themselves, the best thing they can do is learn about healthy diets and lifestyles that they can participate in. I mean, health and wellness, it's certainly not a spectator sport, which, like, the current pop-a-pill convenience culture has kind of turned it into, where they can just take something, well, it certainly has its merits. They think that they can just do that, and that's the end of their health. They're not looking at their diet. They're not looking at their lifestyle. Are they sedentary? Are they going out? Are they hiking and so forth? I mean, and a huge part of our health is also reconnecting to our environment and our planet. I mean, there was a phrase coined by a man called Richard Louv called Nature Deficit Disorder, where he wrote a book called The Last Child in the Woods, I believe was the title of the book. And he talks about how human beings and children are spending less time outdoors, and this is resulting in a large range of different psychological and behavioral problems and other issues that are arising from our disconnection from our planet and our environment.
Ooh,
So
that's a mouthful.
what is herbal energetics?
Herbal energetics, you'll hear a lot of herbalists talking about that because it's a language of herbalists. Basically what herbal energetics are is it's a common generalized language that's used to describe actions or effects of the herb in the body, how the herb affects the body. And some plant examples to make it really simple. I'm going to use wineberry, or it's a hybrid of raspberry that we're going to be talking about on our plant walk at Touch Mother Earth, is that it has an herbal energetic profile of being drying and astringent. So applying that would be if I were in the woods and let's say I ate too much of a wild fruit and I just happened to get the runs from it. I could make a tea out of the leaves or the root, and that is going to be astringent and drying. So that's going to help with that fluid loss. Another example would be violet, is that it does the exact opposite, whereas it's cooling and moistening. It's really about bringing balance, and it's applied in constitutionalized medicine, where people have constitutions or personal energetic patterns. An example of that can be found if you look at Ayurveda and the doshas like Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, and they all have certain characteristics that are used to define those constitutions or those health patterns or body patterns or morphology and so forth.
So tell us more about your vision of integrative herbalism, your new how that applies and how that's going to be brought out in your wellness center in Kinnelon.
Well, at Integrative Herbalism, we're really looking to kind of build more of a community center than just an herbal apothecary or a tea shop. We're certainly going to have different classes on yoga, possibly Tai Chi, different types of meditation classes that we can have. And, of course, we're going to have classes on herbalism. And in the future, we're looking to give certification classes that are usually extended over long periods of time. Now, we also in the store have an herbal clinic that people come and see me or possibly another herbalist to see how they can help take back their power in their health and see what they can do as far as recommendations go. And, of course, that there's the backyard that we have a beautiful fenced-in backyard with a black walnut tree in the back that we look to put in tons of gardens. And we're going to have herbs growing in those gardens as well as some veggies. And hopefully people can get to know the herbs in their plant form rather than just a dried-out herb on a shelf. And we plan on having programs on botany and gardening and so forth there, so people can learn how to apply this back at their houses if they want to start their own veggie garden or they want to start an herbal garden or whatnot. And we're also going to have some classes on sustainability, sustainable living, sustainable lifestyles, and hopefully we're looking to have some classes also on some biology and some basic classes on chemistry. And, you know, for the people that don't want to participate in that, we also will have a big selection of herbs and a big selection of teas and coffees and bath and body ointments and salves and lotions and some yoga accessories and some other nice knickknacks and local products that we can help carry and help support our local businesses in our store.
So you know a black walnut is not a very good neighbor, right? It doesn't like other creatures in its neighborhood.
Well, yes, this is called an allelopathic trait. When the tree puts out juglione, which is a constituent or a chemical that secretes off the leaves that can help stop certain items from growing directly underneath it. Now, we are looking at putting the gardens out from where the leaf spread is and growing them there in raised beds with controlled soil. Yes. So,
can you see why I have these two, along with Dave and Sharon, to touch Mother Earth? These are people who are not coming to hold your hand for an hour and a half. These are people who are going to teach you some knowledge that you're going to walk away with and have an aha moment. And you're going to be able to find them afterwards and go visit what they do, because it's very important that we are a learning center within a festival. Some people may come for the music, but the classes and the demonstrations and the all of the teaching that each of these people offer are coming truly from their heart, and they want people to walk away and know that you don't just go to the grocery store or you don't go to the pharmacy and pop a pill. You need to take control of your diet and your surroundings. And it could be meditation. It could be Tai Chi. But you really need to take some responsibility and not depend on the drug companies to fix your heart when it's too late, or your diabetes because you weren't paying attention. All these things, in some fashion, are being addressed at the festival. And each year it changes. So I can't promise one size fits all for anything, but being able to have these multiple disciplines brought together under one umbrella for a weekend is a good chance that you will find something you connect with. And that connection is going to help you. It's going to help the environment, and it's going to make everybody in a more positive light. And that is part of my vision. Jim,
so,
you are fantastic.
Julia, you spent, I guess what we were talking about earlier was you spent, I guess, 5 weeks living in Rwanda and conducting research with the Wildlife Conservation Society in Rwanda. What's their mission in Rwanda, and what are the largest threats to the environment there?
Thanks, Alan. So the Wildlife Conservation Society, as most people know, it's worldwide. They have this and missions and projects in almost every country around the world. It's super, super fascinating what they do. In Rwanda specifically, They try to help with conservation, not just for animals, but for the environment as well. I'll mention a few threats, but a lot of these threats are caused due to the massive explosion in population growth that I talked about before. Specifically, cutting down trees within the entire country and specifically within the national rainforest. So national rainforests, account for maybe 1% of the entire ground surface on Earth, but it has over 51% of the entire biodiversity species in the world within these rainforests. So it's very, very important to keep the climate of these rainforests going. My research was specifically in Nyungwe National Park in the southern part of Rwanda, where there is the tropical mountain rainforest there. So some of the largest threats are, number one, cutting down trees, which people have been doing, for hundreds of years for fire, for building, but the WCS, the Wildlife Conservation Society, tries to teach villagers how to use alternative methods for cooking, for building house. Fires is a huge issue. People start fires to clear land for farming in the rainforest, and they also start fires to scare the bees out of their hives to collect honey. Mining is actually, Dave, you'll find this fascinating because a lot of people in the community and in the scene, they love collecting crystals. They love collecting the healing energy of quartz and amethyst, but They don't think about the environmental destruction that comes from the mining of these precious crystals and minerals. And I had no idea the environmental degradation that happens from mining quartz and from mining amethyst until I saw it on the side of the road in the rainforest region, a quartz mine, and how it affects the water, how it creates a lot of issues for clean water, how it completely erodes general land structures. And I just think it's so crazy how, we as a community, we love collecting crystals, but it's just not a thought.
Julia, does that mean that they mine and then they ship it over to the U.S. and we go, look at this crystal and buy it?
For a lot of places, yes.
Wow.
A lot of the mining there is for building, but also for certain precious crystals and minerals that they use around Africa to and make jewelry out of that then gets shipped overseas.
Now, are they also currently trying to teach the folks how to plant trees to replace the ones that were cut down?
That's a lot of the mission of a Wildlife Conservation Society. So in order to offset these threats, it's part of the entertainment education program. So in the radio show that I helped develop the methodology for, they have different characters on it, and like one of the good characters, he has a little community that builds that helps to rebuild the forest. So they plant trees. They plant bamboo, and he has like a tree nursery, and that's part of the entertainment education is doing these sustainable behaviors, so that way the audience mimics these behaviors in their daily life.
Beautiful.
And are
they learning to transition? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Are they learning to transition to use bamboo as a more sustainable source?
Well, bamboo is actually the largest habitat for the rare golden monkey. So it's actually like highly frowned upon to cut down bamboo because it's a big habitat for the golden monkey in the southern part of Nyungwe National Park. Now, if you're growing it yourself, that's definitely a positive thing, unless it completely takes over the area. But there, it's not sustainable to use because it's destroying the habitat.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
So, Julia, what did you find the most challenging about working in rural villages of the rainforest?
It took a few days. Jim can attest to this, for me to transition and get used to the lack of communication. For a few days, I didn't have electricity, running water, hot water, communication with anyone, no internet, no Netflix. So that was just on a personal level. Now, conducting research and doing surveys was very difficult, not only due to the language barrier, but due to the roads that aren't really created yet, and a lot of, off-roading and a lot of miscommunication with the executive secretary of the villages, which is kind of like the mayor. So a lot of transportation issues and, having to drive in like this crazy Jeep, 3 hours off like dirt paths, crazy roads with a million potholes to go to like one village community meeting and interview people there. So transportation was huge, not to mention transitioning to the lack of luxury and comfort in the rainforest. Nothing is ever dry. So in the bungalow I lived in, everything was damp at all times. So, you get in bed at night thinking, oh, great, now I can, go to sleep in this nice dry bed. That wasn't an option, no matter what I did.
But you did survive.
Only from talking to you every day, Dave.
Well, let's as Morpheus would say, welcome to the real world.
Yes.
The world that we call comfort is okay. I won't interject. So, what was the most rewarding part of your work?
No, I like where you're going with that, Alex. It's so difficult to be able to see the real world when you're living in this, illusion of going to 7-Eleven and getting a Kit Kat when you want it, and just messaging someone on Facebook who lives across the country if you just want to say hi. There's no way to truly understand until it gets ripped away.
Another key quote from the Matrix movie that everyone might identify with is he says, because Neo, you're a slave. So if we in the United States, for example, were liberated, we would learn how to liberate ourselves from the dollar bill, and we would have been taught to actually garden and be able to get our own nutrition directly from the ground. But what are we taught? We're taught the enslavement tools of language and science and other things like that. So
and then go to the grocery store and just buy it.
You what? Oh yeah.
And then just go to the grocery store and buy it.
It's much easier just to go get a nice plastic package from the store.
Yep. It's already cut up and ready for you, or we become a microwave society.
And it's injected with MSG, so it's guaranteed to taste good. So, Julia, what was the most rewarding part of your work?
I really think connecting with the villagers in Rwanda, to me, was awesome. I mean, even though we didn't speak the same language, I really connected with a lot of the local villagers in the market right by my bungalow. I would go there with from the Wildlife Conservation Society, and I would, come up and try to maintain an energy of being humble, but going with the flow and being chill. Like, I would, just kind of like be making friends with people without knowing them and kind of just acting normal, even though here I am, a Mzungu, which is what they call a white person, in a village. They may have never even seen a Mzungu before, or they may have seen a couple, and I'm just, hanging out, laughing. And, they would tell the translator who I was with, they were like, this girl, she looks like a Mzungu, but she acts like one of us. Like, how is this possible?
That, you know what, Julia, you definitely learned to adapt, and I am sharing that because myself, having traveled to Mexico and other countries where you go off the beaten path, they don't always see too many of us. For Mexico, I'd be a gringo, but it's my ability to go in and try to connect and just say we're all people, and they admire that, although it's a challenge because they're not used to it. It's just not in their normal realm of daily life, and I'm sure people gathered around you curious, like, who is this new person that we've never seen anybody like her before?
Yeah, it's really just about, connecting heart to heart. I feel like a lot of times in our society, it's, hi, my name is this, I'm from here, this is my occupation, all these things that, like, describe us and label us instead of just being like, hey, what's up? I'm a human. What's good? And just really connecting with people, on just a general level instead of always coming up with, why are you here and what are you doing?
I know Alan asked you both the challenging and the other. Do you have one particular moment that stands out in your mind that was sort of your favorite? Maybe an aha moment?
I had this one moment. I think it was my first week when I was in the rainforest village. So the very first week I was there, I was living in Kigali, a developing city, and my second week I got thrown into the rainforest village where I had, very limited internet, limited electricity, and I was kind of almost getting at my breaking point after a few days. I didn't feel like I was connecting with the people in Wildlife Conservation Society, the language barrier. They kept on having these meetings in Rwanda, didn't know what was going on. And one afternoon in my first week on that Thursday, we went on a little field trip to go hike up the rainforest mountain and see what the forest looked like before the fires destroyed it. And we had this like 2 to 3 hour long hike up the mountain. Like, half of us were dying and half the other people were doing great. Just running up, holding machetes, chopping down ferns. They were good. But, we all got back into the car later on. It was raining. It was not raining. We got back into the car, wet, dirty, sweaty, just smiling. And we were driving back to the WCS headquarters. And all of a sudden, someone in the front seat just starts singing. And then the entire van just sings in response. And it turns into this call and response, beautiful song. And then because, I'm a musician and I'm a singer, I pick up on it. It's not my language, but I pick up on it right away. And I start responding back. And they freak out. They're so happy. And they start making up songs with, my name in it. And just, singing and stomping their feet and having so much fun. And then when it gets to my turn, I respond, with a call, and I start teaching them some Native American call and response songs and just kind of making them up too. And just 2 straight hours singing songs in the back of a van with 10 Rwandan villagers, just having the time of our lives, really just connecting. And after that, I feel like I broke through to the other side.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
So, Julia, what are the takeaways that people are going to get from your workshop at TME?
I really hope, to be able to get people thinking about how they can take their projects to the next level. A lot of people coming to Touch Mother Earth, they have so many ideas and they have so many visions and things that they want to do. And I hope to be able to give people an avenue to start making those ideas into a reality and to start, giving feet to some baby projects or maybe ideas that people already have and they have businesses going and they can think of different ways that they can connect. So it's about, elevating the community so that way we can come together, learn from each other, and take it to the next level. It's 2018. There's no other time but right now.
So what did you learn from producing your documentary Spotlight on Sustainability?
The documentary that I produced last year, it's a 30-minute short film on local sustainability initiatives in New Jersey. What I learned was that I should have focused more on the entertainment aspect. It's a little too much on the education. Even though it is a fun video, well shot, well spoken, has a lot of interviews. If I could do it again, and I probably will continue to make more films, I want to focus more on being entertaining, so that way it holds people's attention more. Is what I learned.
Well, like you said, Sesame Street, people are learning while being entertained, and they don't even realize it.
From what I learned with my research, is entertainment education is supposed to be 70% entertainment and 30% education, and that's really kind of the key focus. And that's a lot of what Touch Mother Earth does too. It has the entertainment. It has, the fun dancing and music, but education is a portion of it. But you do need to have both to get the community riveted.
So what are some tips you can give our listeners on how to reach a larger audience to make an impact with their message?
Kind of what we were talking about with keeping it on entertainment. People love to be entertained, but they also like to be surprised, and they like to learn new things. So we have to think about new ways on how we can present ideas to people, things that are exciting, things that make people want to make a change, whether it's based through, happiness. Like, you don't want to really motivate through fear. You want to motivate through excitement for change. I mean, I'm a big social media marketing person. So definitely using social media to find ways to educate and build trust and also entertain at the same time. Great. And also collaborating with as many people as possible.
Well, I think that wraps up this segment of the program. What's next, Dave? Uh-oh, Dave's at a loss.
No, sorry, I muted myself. I had to blow my nose. I would like to highlight some of the facets of the festival that we haven't covered, if that's cool. Somebody familiar to Jim is Laura Jacobs, and she herself is also an herbalist. She found plants in her yard and learned that they were endangered, and she started with that and created a sanctuary where she let the environments grow. I mean, everybody either has a lawn and they mow it, they do chem lawn and all that stuff. No, she allowed her habitat to grow, and she discovered that certain plants are medicinal and become teas, and you can use in the Ayurvedic sense that Jim was talking about. And her workshop, which will be Saturday at 4 o'clock, is going to tag team with Jim. She's going to actually work on the idea that what she knows from plant medicine you can do in your own garden. She's going to show you how you can plant these. They're simple plants. Some of them you may go to the store and buy them. You may not grow ginger in your yard, but you can buy ginger. And creating a workshop where people will be able to make their own tea so they can kind of relate to their own body composition, or just know that maybe this one is when you have a sore throat, this is another one when you want some sleepy time, etc. And then new this year, going back to the original part of our talk, one of my visions was beekeeping, because I had beehives in my backyard when I had the land. And Brian Ufer is going to come with a beehive, and he's going to give a demonstration And right now, bees are critical. We're at a loss of habitat for bees. The bees are being decimated because of the chemicals through Monsanto and others. And we're at a point, they're critical to pollination of all of our fruits, some nuts. In fact, there are people that rent beehives and will bring them during the almond season in California so that we can have almonds. But we're at a point where we need to turn the tide back around. We've been decimating elements of the insect population, not being aware of its full impact. And I'm really honored. He's a really well-spoken gentleman, and I'm happy he's going to be on site Saturday at 2 p.m. And then there are people who do understand energies of crystals. Crystals are actually living organisms that move over more like a 1,000 to 10,000 year period. They will morph. Whether you've gone into a cave and seen stalactites and stalagmites, or whether you've opened up a geode, somebody will have something in a store. But understanding that these are also living organisms, just not in the language we normally think of. She's going to be at noon. For people who want to get some health from body movement, 10 o'clock opening up our ceremony, our day on Saturday at Touch Mother Earth is goddess dance, meditation. Athena got me up and learning hip shake, move over, and I would never thought I could do it until I tried it. And it gave me a whole new perspective, things that we don't do. And then for other dancing, we have Dances of Universal Peace. That'll be at 2 p.m., and that is Sufi dancing, and that's a really healthy way to explore music through dance. At 4 p.m., we have Love Ripple Dance, and you're going to be blindfolded, and they're going to show you how to trust yourself. That's pretty potent. On Sunday at 2 p.m., we have Journey Dance. Some folks know about Journey Dance, but Esther Captain, the woman who is running this in particular, it's a sacred contained space because you're going to heal within that 2-hour period and take it in that sacred space. And then we have yoga. Folks are curious about it, whether they've taken it or not. A woman, Nikki Schultz, has been very supportive of the event, and she and I have had many conversations in planning. She'll be there Sunday 10 in the morning, which whether the public is just showing up or the people are staying over the weekend, that's a great way to start your day. Michelle Kenya, as I mentioned, teaches you about that safe space that you need as well. Dalian, 13 Hands, Sunday at noon, is going to give you the nutritional aspects to help you. We have sound healing. We have Dave and Sharon from Before the Way of the Sacred. Heather Dove will start a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. with yoga. So we're trying to include ways that you can meld your mind, body, and spirit. And Shaka Georges is returning for his 3rd year, Sunday morning, Tai Chi. Mary Pierce is going to be on board. She came last year teaching how to distill the essential oils out of lavender. And while she was there, she met a young man named Max Perkins, and he is learning glass blowing. Now, he's learning it from a chemistry point of view, but he met her and they merged, and he has now built her distillery, completely hand-blown glass. And so they'll be tag teaming. He'll be helping her with her workshop, but then he'll be doing glass blowing where we'll be able to actually see this in real time over the course of the weekend. He's not set up as a specific workshop because when people gather, will see them as an ongoing. The amazing things, one thing I didn't mention, and this is where community comes in. Nearby Moon, who will be opening up Sunday with what I call Sonic Church, which is sound healing, bowls and gongs and chimes and all, and her son Max will be coming on board, and then the band will come. She just bought a van. She goes on tour. She bought a van that's going to sort of become her mini house. And as a result, I called her up and I said, wait a minute. We need to get some solar panels on there. I know somebody who can do it. So over the course of this weekend, and this blows my mind, Alex and Olga are going to be outfitting her van, with solar panels as an ongoing for the 2 days. People are going to be able to see how the project evolves. They might see it for 10 minutes, go off to other workshops, come back, learn about the wiring, learn about the mechanisms you need to the battery storage, etc., how to actually create an off-the-grid situation. And that is the old Amish barn raising brought modern into solar panelizing somebody's vehicle. And that really excites me because I've never thought about it, but all it takes is a couple connections, and when we move them in that area and we say we can do it, all of a sudden it becomes a project. Now the community is involved, and everybody's going to get to see this. And like Jim, we also have Joe Resch. Joe Resch works at a garden center. He is a plant walker. He will be kind of closing us out Sunday at 6 p.m. and offer us a workshop as well. And then I didn't even mention drumming. I created the Earth Movers Drum Kit. We will start on Friday with Dana McCurdy doing mindful drumming from 5 to 7:30, 5 to 6:30. Boy, I wish I had this right. And then we'll have a nightly drum circle after all the music. And then we're going to have another drum circle Saturday night after the music. And then on Sunday, we will have the mindful drumming again, as well as a drum circle. Katrina's going to be bringing a large snake that she has brought in the last 2 years. And people who might not normally see these creatures or be fearful will actually have a chance to hold it, wrap it around, and see that it's safe. And other workshops, David Young. David Young just came about as a surprise. He's going to be doing a healing workshop. He's also going to be performing. He'll be closing us out. He produces meditative music that is in various hospitals. The Mayo Clinic, for example, has this music where somebody can go in a room and listen to it and relax. And that's an important part of healing. You just had a surgery, some kind of operation that's you're recovering, and to be able to have this meditative music. Food-wise, people don't know what's going on in their gut. They have the problems, they have the runs, they're constipated, blah, 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 blah. Their intestinal health has been challenged. So Love Your Guts is a workshop, 12 o'clock on Saturday, that is from Get Juiced Farm. Get Juiced was there last year. This year they decided to add a workshop. They'll be vending their food, which is all healthy, but to be able to actually take responsibility for your body. And if folks can't make that, then they'll be able to go to Dalian's workshop on Sunday at noon. So we're trying to cover the bases of health, respect for the earth, understanding your responsibility and what your place is in it, and knowing that you don't have to go to a pharmacy. You don't just have to buy a prepackaged food. Our food, for example, that we have is vegan and organic. It's going to be a challenge for some people to eat meat. I know it. But the idea is they're not going to miss it. They're going to find when they eat it, it's going to actually solve some of the problems that maybe they've had in their own standard American diet. What else? Kirk Jones is going to talk about water management. Why are we polluting? What water should be safe, clean, free? He's got a workshop Sunday at 4 o'clock. This is where we need to rethink the earth and our participation in it. And then we got to look at the younger generation. So our kids program, Stacy Lamel and Tara Janik have returned for their third year. And Stacy started with teaching the kids yoga, but she has introduced other ways to understand little kids' open mind, how they can participate. So, for example, instead of just art with crayons and, trying to fill in the space, we're going to actually have the kids through Kid Build build their own box, as we mentioned earlier. We're going to have a compost workshop. It goes on. We want families to come. It's not an adult thing only. We encourage everybody to bring their kids. The first year we had a birthday party where a woman rented one of the cottages and brought 8 little girls, 8 to 9 years old. Some of them had never even been to a pond or never eaten vegetarian food or never had a chance to do some of the things that were offered. And they didn't want to go home. And on Sunday, that day, after making things from the earth, the moss, of this and that, and they sold them and raised $148 for an animal shelter. That testimonial is on touchmotherearth.com. We are about life-changing. It's not an all, we're having fun event. It is really something you're going to go home and say, that blew my mind. And Alan, you've been supportive of it. You've gotten a sense of it. I really honor that you are bringing us into this public so that hopefully they'll have a chance to learn and grow.
All right. Well, thanks so much. And Julia and Jim, do you want to give your contact information?
Hi, Jim here. Okay, well, you can contact me or Julia at Jim at Integrative Herbalism, or you can email Julia at integrativeherbalism.com. And we look forward to hearing from everybody and seeing everybody at the festival.
Can you share again where your apothecary is?
The apothecary is located in Kinnelon, New Jersey, about 5 minutes up the street from Pyramid Mountain on Boonton Avenue.
All right.
We just a reminder, we are at a point where all our rooms are booked, but people can come and camp. We didn't mention the idea that you can come from Friday through Sunday, or if you can only make it overnight, but you still want to catch the workshops on either side, you do want to go to touchmotherearth.com, and we're trying to price it affordably for everybody to have this learning experience.
All right, that's great. So thank you, Julia, Jim, and Dave for being on the show tonight. And I'll get a link to this audio stream out as soon as I can, and then I'll get the video out as soon as I can as well. Thanks for being on the show, and have a great night.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much for having me. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks for listening to the Spiritual Unity Radio Network. Join us 7 nights a week for exciting programming covering a variety of expressions of faith. And remember, all manifestations of the divine are equally valid.